You're watching The Legal Breakdown. Glenn, there was a headline that just captured my attention, something that I didn't expect to see today. I'm going to put a headline on the screen right now. Jack Smith transfers Mar-a-Lago documents case, this is the Florida case, to U.S. Attorney's Office. Now, as far as I was concerned, Jack Smith had dismissed this case against Donald Trump. So what does it mean that he is transferring this case to federal prosecutors here in the Southern District of Florida?
Yeah, Brian, I have to admit, I did a double take when I read that headline because we know that Jack Smith was compelled to dismiss the Florida prosecution against Donald Trump. Why? Because DOJ has this horrific policy that, they don't think it's a good idea to prosecute a sitting criminal president. So Jack Smith dismissed the charges against Donald Trump. So how could he be transferring the case? Well, I think we tend to forget that Donald Trump was not the only indicted co-defendant in the Florida Mar-a-Lago classified documents case. Two of his henchmen, his criminal associates, his co-defendants are still indicted in that case, Walt Nauta and Carlos de Oliveira. Now, to make matters even more complicated, it doesn't really seem like there's much of a case anymore because Judge Aileen Cannon dismissed the case outright, saying, you know what, notwithstanding 50 years of precedent saying that special counsel is a thing, she ruled that special counsel was not lawfully appointed, so she dismissed the entire case. But we also need to remember that once that happened, Jack Smith immediately appealed that wrongful dismissal. He then dismissed the case outright against Donald Trump, but there are these other two defendants that remain in the appeal. So here's what Jack Smith just did. Because he's stepping down as special counsel, he and his team won't be able to continue to pursue the appeal involving Nauta and de Oliveira. So he took that appeal, what remained of the Mar-a-Lago classified documents case, and he transferred it to the United States Attorney's Office for the Southern District of Florida. They will now continue to move forward in that criminal appeal, trying to get the 11th Circuit Court of Appeals to overturn Judge Aileen Cannon's lawless dismissal. So that is how the case just landed in the hands of the U.S. Attorney down in Florida.
Is it possible that as soon as Trump takes office, he could instruct his Attorney General, or his Attorney General can just opt to do it without instruction from Trump, to dismiss the ongoing charges against Walt Nauta and de Oliveira?
Is it possible? I don't know. Do birds fly and do fish swim? Yes, I would say it's possible, probably even likely. It will also be a supremely corrupt act. It might even be the birth of a new criminal conspiracy. Think about it. If Donald Trump, who now, retakes the reins of governmental power, says, my two indicted co-defendants in charges that include unlawfully retaining classified documents, obstructing justice, and violating our nation's espionage laws, my two indicted co-defendants, I'm going to use and abuse my presidential power, and I'm going to corruptly have those cases dismissed. To me, that feels like a conspiracy to obstruct justice anew. But who am I? Just somebody who spent 30 years enforcing the laws of our nation and showing loyalty to the Constitution. Those qualities, I suspect, may be nowhere to be found in Donald Trump's new Department of Justice.
Do you sense that while the DOJ is still overseeing this appeal, and I'm assuming this appeal will transfer from Jack Smith's prosecutors over to the federal prosecutors in the Southern District of Florida's office, that appeal will continue to be ongoing. Do you feel like in a moment like this, where it's almost certain that as soon as Trump takes office, the new Attorney General will withdraw the DOJ or will withdraw federal prosecutors from this case, even against these two remaining co-defendants? How do they move forward, and do they do it in such a way that's relatively lackluster, knowing full well what the writing on the wall spells out?
Yeah, all good questions, tough to answer, but let's tease them out a little bit. So I think the next sort of procedural question is, how quickly will the appeals court down in Florida, now that the case is actively being handled by federal prosecutors in Florida, how quickly will they move out on perhaps deciding the case? If they decide the case in the coming weeks and they, for example, rule that Judge Cannon yet again abused her judicial discretion to Donald Trump's extreme advantage, they reverse her dismissal and reinstate the charges against Nauta and De Oliveira. That case is now back on the trial track. It may go back to Judge Cannon, or the appeals court may order it to go to a truly fair, independent, and impartial judge instead of going back to Judge Cannon. And then once we have Donald Trump take over, it will still take some time, obviously, for his attorney general that he has nominated, Pam Bondi, to make her way through the confirmation hearings and vote and take over. So, you know, there will be some time in the interim where the case can continue to move forward sort of free of Donald Trump interference. So this is going to be a bit of a horse race. You know, what's going to happen first? Will the 11th Circuit, a court of appeals, resolve the case, or will Donald Trump, you know, have his nefarious actors at the Department of Justice in place in time to do away with the case entirely? So, you know, lots of unanswered questions. Lots of it sort of just involves the timing of how things play out.
Well, look, Glenn, if the goal here is to try and at least prosecute these two smaller fish, even if Trump is off the table in De Oliveira and Nauta, would it be possible, knowing that a Pam Bondi is all but certain to dismiss the charges against these two, even if it does go back to the trial track, why not have these federal prosecutors try and transfer this case to the state court system so that they would be insulated from the possibility of receiving a presidential pardon?
Because I don't know what Florida state laws Donald Trump may have violated. We know he obstructed a federal investigation by refusing to comply with the subpoena for the return of the records. We know he violated federal laws by taking federal documents and records and unlawfully retaining them. We know he violated, at least as far as the indictment is concerned, our nation's espionage laws, but those are uniquely federal laws. So I don't even know that he necessarily violated Florida state laws when he unlawfully retained those federal documents down at Mar-a-Lago. There may not be an opportunity for the local prosecutors in Florida to bring a pardon-proof case based on Donald Trump's conduct at Mar-a-Lago.
I mean, isn't it, I feel like I know the answer to this question, but what strikes me is that you get a sense of discouragement knowing that there is a full tranche of Trump-aligned officials who will basically be handed get-out-of-jail-free cards. And this is not just Walt Nauta and Carlos de Oliveira. This is also this whole brigade of more than 1,000 insurrectionists. This is anybody who has acted corruptly or been convicted or wrapped up in the legal system in any way whatsoever that has any allegiance to Donald Trump, has shown any loyalty to Donald Trump. Like, the writing is on the wall here that we just know, even as this case plays out in the judicial system, we know that it's not going to matter, that it's completely moot, because as soon as he gets in, he's going to direct his henchmen to make sure that they're free and clear of all of these charges. And so I guess how does that strike you as somebody who had dedicated his life, 30 years as a former federal prosecutor, to know that this whole process is playing out, but really at the end of the day, it's for naught?
Yeah, it is soul crushing for not just me, anybody who values the rule of law, anybody who values the sanctity of the Constitution, anybody who believes that accountability for one's crimes is a must, particularly when it comes to the kind of crimes that endanger our nation's security and the safety of the American people. But here's the thing, it even gets a little worse, because I'm not suggesting that Pam Bondi will necessarily, if confirmed, come in and immediately join Donald Trump's criminal conspiracy to try to, give cover to his criminal associates, his indicted co-defendants in the Mar-a-Lago documents case. But she may not need to. Why? Donald Trump may come in and say, whoa, let me cut it all to the quick. I hereby pardon Nauta and De Oliveira. Done. That takes Pam Bondi out of the corrupt and even potentially conspiratorial loop. I still am holding out some hope that if Bondi is confirmed, she may turn out to be someone who is unwilling to join in Donald Trump's corruption. that remains to be seen. But I do feel like, Brian, and I hate to say this, particularly as we enter the new year, we are about to, I think, embark on the age of American indecency and lawlessness at the hands of Donald Trump and his many criminal associates and lapdogs and flunkies and sycophants inside government. And, it's going to take all of us to pull together and, work our tails off to try to get through this intact.
Well, look, I think that being in this period right now, to your exact point of lawlessness, that underscores the importance of elevating voices like yours. So again, for those who are watching right now, if you want to support our work as we head into 2025, this new year, please make sure to subscribe. The links to both of our channels are right here on this screen. I'm Brian Tyler Cohen.
And I'm Glenn Kirshner.
You're watching The Legal Breakdown.